All right. Well, good afternoon. I don't usually wear microphones, but I was reading in an article that the people that are having challenges hearing you, they never say so. As the staff and faculty have heard before, I'm from New York, so I don't usually need a microphone, but especially in a room like this. But welcome. So apparently the name of this event is Meet the Dean. And at WashU, there are a ton of people who have the title Dean in their name. In fact, like many of them. But there are very few of us who only have just one word, Dean. And I'm one of those. I'm Aaron Bobick. I'm the Dean of McKelvey Engineering. And I'm going to guess that sounds loud. I'm going to guess that the vast majority of you have children that are in engineering. So the first thing I want to say is thank you. For having decided that this was a good idea and not having pulled them out to go to, I don't know, Princeton or something. Let's see, quick show of hands. How many are parents of, so when I came from Georgia Tech here. So Georgia Tech, they outlawed using the word freshman, sophomore, because are we not supposed to do that? First year. How many people are previously known as freshmen and are now first year parents? Okay. Second year? Third year? Jody, you don't count. This is one of our faculty members whose kid happens to be a third. And fourth year? Wow. And how come you're not done yet year? Okay. Well, one? Okay. So actually, one of the reasons we got rid of it at Georgia Tech was for reasons that actually a little bit of a mystery to me. It has a lot to do with faculty not ever meeting a requirement they didn't like. At Georgia Tech, it became routine that it took 5 years for students to complete their undergraduate degrees, which I think was problematic for a variety of reasons. It still sounds loud. No, it's okay? Okay. But that's not our case. For the vast majority of our students finish in 4 years. In fact, the students that many of them go on to do BSMS will often finish in 4.5 years. Or 4 years plus a summer plus a half year because they take so many courses during the semester. So when I meet with the parents at orientation time at the very beginning, which feels like it was just a few weeks ago, but actually I guess it was 8 weeks ago or so, it's more clear what we're talking about, right? Because you're as nervous as your kids are, and it's my job and everybody else's job here to allay your fears. At this point, certainly if you're second, third, or fourth year, either your fears have been allayed or it's just too late. And for the first year, you're trying to figure this out. So I'm still the same person I was 2 months ago. This is now my 8th year, actually. Yeah, I know. Chris says, wow, which is ironic because you've been here how long?
32.
There you go. So that's right. I got nothing on him. But it's really been something to see as the university continues to grow. One of the things that's interesting, and I've got 3 kids. They're, I'll get this right, 26, 28, and 31. So I've been there, done that on the college side. So the college time that you guys are here is kind of gone in a blink, right, et cetera. For us, we get to see sort of this evolution of the curriculum, of the facilities, et cetera. And in fact, which is great for us, it's sometimes a little depressing for your kids because we'll meet with them about something new we're getting started that'll be ready to go by the time they've graduated. But that's the way it works. But I will tell you that the school has continued to evolve. The most obvious difference is in the physical plant. So for those of you who were here a few years ago, a bunch of this stuff was not here on the East End. Actually, so I do want to ask, so there were a bunch of third-year parents. Again, raise your hand if you're third-year parents. All right. So your kids started fall 2020, and that was brutal. I'd be happy to hear and respond to about whether they've sort of caught up. Okay. They for those parents who are from different years, think about it this way. So 92% of our first-year students showed up in person in 2020 because, look, none of them wanted to stay home. But coming to college was go to your dorm, wake up, go downstairs, grab a breakfast to go to some of your classes which were meeting in person, everybody wearing masks, come back, grab a lunch, eat it in your dorm, then go onto your Zoom classes, and there was no a cappella, there were no, et cetera. And it was not what anybody had in mind when they signed up to go to college. And so we had a bunch of orientation fall 21 that was not just for the first years, but also for the second years. But I would say that even that year, fall 21, the first years had an advantage over the second years. Because the first years were sort of, I see some faculty nodding there. The first years, well, this was their first year and things were sort of normal. The second years didn't really know who they were, right? Because they're not really first years, but they're doing all sorts of things they hadn't done before, and yet student activities, et cetera. So hopefully by now they've sort of caught up, and we would certainly be happy to talk about any of those things. One of the things that I may have said at the beginning for the first years, but certainly is true, this is the first fall that has felt mostly like what falls are supposed to be like at universities since fall 19. A line I like to share is actually from the previous chancellor, Mark Wright, and he used to say that the best thing about working at a university is that we all get older, but the kids stay the same age, right? So it's this perpetual youth machine, which is kind of cool, and it gives you an optimistic perspective when you work. It's one of the cool things about working at a university is that it's almost impossible not to be optimistic about the future when you work at a university like WashU. But what's necessary to drive that sense of sort of optimism and forward-looking is that sort of naive energy that students come in with at the fall. And frankly, that was missing, certainly in fall 20, even in fall 21. Last year, everything was back in person, but everybody was like looking over their shoulder. What's going to happen? And in fact, if you remember fall 21, everybody was very excited. Everybody had gotten vaccinated. In fact, we were able to schedule my younger daughter's wedding December 21, and then Omicron hit in January, right? So it was this weird thing. Now we're in a much more stable situation, and there are still some folks for whom COVID is a challenge, whether it's for medical age reason, whatever. But for the vast majority, certainly of our students, our faculty, our staff, it is now something that is something managed and manageable and mostly in our rearview mirror. And so that has made it an exciting time again on campus. If you've run into our chancellor or our provost at all, you've heard about the strategic plan of the university. If you've walked around the university, you've seen these logos that are sort of like green cut-up balls that some graphic designer got paid a huge amount of money to do. No, not a huge amount of money, because that would be your money. So we'll just say that they did it totally pro bono. But it actually it represents a new time in the university, and in some sense, for your students, they are going to see a bunch of the implications of that. New programs, whether it's around data science and other programs that connect across schools. We're probably going to try to avoid building buildings, because we've built a whole bunch of them, although there is a new Art Sci building going up next to the library. But you're just going to see more investment in programmatic things that connect the university to external worlds, solving external world's problems, which I think will be pretty exciting. The university is in tremendously good shape in the sense of we have a very robust both donor, student base and alumni donor base, which together puts us in a very powerful position to move things forward. For those of you who've receiving financial assistance, the university moved to its completely need-blind approach. And some people have said, finally, but yep, we did. And in fact, some of you may have heard, we just launched a couple weeks ago this new very large campaign to raise north of $500 million more of financial aid endowment in order to just be able to keep doing that. And so the university, if you look at the press, it's a challenging time in higher ed these days. Really, for the last 5 years, it's been very unusual. Both sides of the aisle are sure that higher ed is evil, right? One side is sure that we represent the wrong views, the wrong approach, the wrong solution to the world's problems and a charge of elitism. And on the other side, there's this view of, well, you just cost too damn much, you've separated yourself from society, you're not actually doing anything to elevate the social mobility of the population. I would argue that both of these things are not true, but of course I'm a little biased. But I will tell you that because of these challenges for a lot of higher ed, these are very challenging times. If you read, a whole bunch of universities, including some you've heard of, no longer exist, right? Because they were, I spent a lot of time in Massachusetts. You may have heard of Mount Ida College, which was it's 100 and some odd year old, well, it was 100 and some odd year old college. It's not there anymore. So it's really challenging. WashU is under no such existential threat, right? WashU's position is strong, prominent. I'm sure you've heard we had 33,000 some odd applications for about 1,700 spots this past year, and the growth of research and the production of people here in engineering. Our research in the last 6-7 years has gone up by 50-60% as we continue to move science and engineering forward. So all of you and all of your kids are fortunate to be at a university. And I will tell you that I feel fortunate to be at a university that we're not asking questions of how are we going to survive. We're asking questions of how do we change the world. And that's what you want to do at a university, even when you're spending time teaching classes that are similar to classes maybe you've taught for 30, 40, 50, 100 years. All right? But you want people to be in that environment where this question of how are you going to change the world, you the kid sitting in the third row, is something we ask. All right? And they don't know now, right? But the idea that they can, that's important, and that's part of sort of the ethos of who we are. So I don't have, as you can tell, I don't have prepared remarks. Ethan asked me if I had slides. I said, slides for what? And then they reminded me that I was coming here. It's okay. But I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have a panel of people who actually know stuff. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to?
I can moderate the questions.
Okay. Well, then we should probably introduce who's here.
Yes.
Okay.
So Chris Kroger, Associate Dean for Engineering and Undergraduate Student Services, and I'll have the panelists introduce themselves, but I also want to recognize we have faculty, department chairs, associate chairs here. If you would raise your hand, and if you're a faculty member that's here, and if you would, we'll go around and have you quickly introduce yourself so the parents know who you are. Josh? Thank you.
And just joined us a few months ago. So we should all thank him for taking that job. So thank you. Because
Jody, I know you're a parent, but you're also a faculty member.
Senior lecturer in EPC, and I'm the director of our master's program.
Thank you. Now I'm going to pass the mic and ask each person up here to introduce themselves.
Jay Turner, I'm a professor of energy, environmental, and chemical engineering, and I'm the school's vice dean for education.
Kelly Delphos, I'm the Director of Industry Relations and Career Engagement here in the School of Engineering, and I think the only one on this row that doesn't have dean in their title, so I'm going to have to negotiate that. But anyway, also representing the Career Center today, if you have questions on that. And
I'm Ashley Goodereis. I'm an assistant dean and four-year advisor in engineering undergraduate student services.
Hi, I'm Melanie Osborne. You can guess I have one of those words in my title. Basically, I'm an advisor.
Thank you. We have a number of other folks from our office, Engineering and Undergraduate Student Services, so if you just want to raise your hand so that people can see who you are, and they will be available at the reception. So we'd like to open it up, what's really important for us. And first, thank you for having your sons and daughters be here with us. We really appreciate that. We love working with them. They're amazing people, and we would like to be able to answer the questions that you have. So we've got great people here from the departments and from our office who can do that. So who has the first question? Sir.
Yes, so our second-year son. Great for him, he grew up a ton. He decided he wanted to study back now. He's in the College of Arts and Science.
So there are some options to do computer science combined with things like math and economics and arts and sciences that also exist with us. So it's totally okay to switch over to McKelvey. We would be more than happy to talk with your son about those options. And data science is a formal degree program here. Arts and science is developing a department related to that, but I don't think an undergraduate degree yet. Is that, Bill, would you answer that, or Rock?
Other courses outside of your computer science is so science and math, which is one business and computer science, all in it's a little.
So I can tell you that you could have a degree in data science from the School of Agriculture. It won't matter. If you've got a degree in data science, there will be huge numbers of opportunities. I will say that one of the differences, and Rocco, correct me if I'm wrong because he always does, is that there are more types of requirements in Art Sci. If you get the data science degree there, from McKelvey, you actually have a little more latitude as to what else you might take. So what he should do is talk to an advisor, and maybe both sides, and figure out what else does he want to take. And then if it fits neatly within the Art Sci framework, then he can just stay there. If it sort of is a bit of a push to do that, we in engineering, we know what our requirements are, and beyond that, we really let the students have a tremendous latitude. Art Sci, there's a greater focus on making sure you take other courses also within Art Sci. We're happy to have you take them. You can take them Art Sci, you can take them Olin, you can take them Sam Fox. We have an undergraduate minor in human-computer interaction that's between computer science and the design school. So we tend to, believe it or not, engineering tends to be a little bit more flexible on the data science side than Art Sci is at the moment. Quick thing that was being mentioned, it was announced, some of you may have seen it, there will be a new department of statistics and data science in Art Sci. And it will be a split off of the math and statistics department, and it will be focused on statistics and data science. And it's intended that that department, though, in Art Sci, will have deep connections to computer science. And in fact, Rock Aaron is on the search committee for the inaugural chair, and the chair of that search committee is talking to you right now. So it is really something that's seen to be a bridge between them.
Down that road, or should we maybe do a more minor?
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong or right answer to that specific one. We see our students do all types of different things, and I think them having the opportunity to really explore their interest here and now is the best way to do it, no matter what it might be. And any additional, Patricia, any additional comments from you?
We have a younger one here.
Yeah, we don't have a summer-specific program for engineering exploration over the summer. There are, I know there are ways that some students do that at a variety of different places, but there is not a specific way to do that. Students could take some summer courses over the summer, but there's not an engineering general one that would be a good fit. You might be able to do Introduction to Computer Science, so we do offer CS 131 over the summer.
About prior to applying?
Yes, yes, these
Right,
are
so
very
they're-
to
so
the
they're not
advantage
right.
of being here.
Right, so, all right.
Hope that's okay, I don't want to take up too much of the panel.
Actually, I'm not.
Please.
Um, passionate about something that is passionate about horseback riding. Why you did what you did, what valuable to you. How, gee, would I, what do you do? That is really hard to answer from some. Science can be fun. Parts of engineering that are tremendous fun. There are some other parts. So I'm not sure you'll get a sense of, but if you're really interested in rocketry or whatever, and you go do something, that's the part of engineering that you might find. That would be how you should study. I also tell people that, so I did okay, I got 2 degrees. My summers, I have a lifetime.
Yes. The advisor is really the best person. The 4-year advisor would be the best person to speak with. There are also major minor fairs that occur on campus. Is that one occurred through Arts and Sciences already? So that one's already happened, the major minor fair. But the 4-year advisor is probably the best place to talk with. We are, the Horseshoe kids, they try to stuff as many credentials in their back pocket as they can before they graduate. And a lot of times now as advisors, we spend time talking them out of that and just say, maybe you don't need to take 5 or 6 courses to get a minor. Maybe there's 2 or 3 that you want to take. It's because that's what you want to take, those courses. No one in your life is going to ask you what minors you earned. And so it's a personal satisfaction thing. So a minor may not always be the best thing. Unless it's computer science. Sometimes they do.
So as Rock knows, we have somewhere around 700 majors in computer science, 300-ish second majors, but we also have 300 minors, most of whom are not from engineering. The getting of a minor in computer science is one of the few minor credentials that actually does potentially give you an entree that you might not have had otherwise. It allows you to apply for a job where it says computer science majors required. And then you could say, well, I'm a minor, will you take me? And everybody's going to say yes, because they're desperate for computer science people. Whereas if you just took 1 or 2 courses, it may be a little bit harder. But even then, if you can say, well, I took a couple courses and I really just want to do computing, and by the way, I aced them and I'm from WashU, they're going to say yes also. But the minor in computer science is one of the few credentialing minors that probably carries some industrial weight.
Yes. Oh, Melanie Osborne.
Yes, we have a program called, very creatively, Summer in London, and it is primarily for students rising sophomores. Right now, the class we offer is differential equations. Almost everyone, except computer science, needs to take differential equations. So that program works out very well. Students go to London. We provide housing. They have a 4-week differential equations class. Generally, they don't meet on Fridays, so they have a long weekend. It's really a great opportunity. Andrew also works with Study Abroad, and we just met with our Summer in London students recently, and there were 14 of them that went, and they are a really tight group now. They have their group chat and had a great time. We are currently working on expanding for another class. We have some ideas of adding another class that more majors will need. So it's a great opportunity. Students will start to hear more about it. We'll be publicizing it. Well, we also have a great summer opportunity that any student can do for humanities, social science. It's different sessions in Rome. It's great for anybody who's mechanical engineering rising junior. It's approved for a couple mechanical engineering first year junior classes. But it's also humanities and social science. You can go for 1 or 2 sessions, and you're in Rome. It's called John Cabot University. I think that they've changed that requirement, and you can take one minor course abroad. But it has to be at a location that is accredited for Olin, which have your son come in. Andrew and I can talk to him. There are a number of places he could go during the semester. As Ron Citron told me once, computer science is like oxygen. It's everywhere. So you can always get a couple of computer science electives, humanities, and we can probably find a place where he can go get a finance class if Olin's going to allow that one.
Yes. It does depend a lot on the major and the specific major. Some majors have a lot more flexibility than others, and we do require every single engineering student to have 18 units of humanities and social sciences, which is about a little bit more than a semester's worth of courses. I have not heard discussions about a 5th year, but we do have the BSMS program, which doesn't necessarily add more flexibility but if it's someone like Dean Bobick I mentioned earlier where they can graduate early, then they can use that extra semester to do extra things. I just met with a student who's graduating in 3 years with his undergrad degree.
Yeah, let me add a few things to that. First of all, I really want my 2 colleagues from chemical engineering here to hear this because chemical engineering is, I'll say, the least flexible. Et cetera. But it really is the case that they can take plenty of other courses. They just get slotted into these other buckets. It might not be as flexible as some of the other programs that they're comparing it to, but I will tell you, at Georgia Tech in mechanical engineering, there were no electives. So we're in better shape than that. I think 5 years is a terrible idea. I think if you're going to, if your child really wants to practice engineering, they should think very deeply about the BSMS program, right? Because in many engineering fields, not all, but in many, a master's degree is sort of the coin of the realm. And without putting too fine a point on it, we give a tremendous financial discount remission on the 1 year of master's tuition if you're a BSMS student. And so you can, even if they take the entire year, additional year, they may end up paying, say, 65% of a Wash U year's tuition and end up with a master's degree. And then that also allows them to decompress because they can shift some of the master's stuff to their senior year. So basically, they now have 5 years to spread some of these things out so they can do that. One of the reasons you don't want to, so many of our students, so many of your students, are going to end up doing something where they may spend a little bit of time in engineering and then they move into the finance track of some company they're a part of. They do a startup. They decide that they're going to go to law school or whatever it is. And the idea to take 5 years to get your bachelor's degree in engineering is just another year. The other thing also is, unlike Georgia Tech, WashU is a not inexpensive place to go. And so the idea that you make it a 5th year has real financial implications. And so no, I don't think you're going to see us looking at going to 5 years. But there are ways that they can decompress what they do. The other thing is that sometimes there's such a desire to collect pieces of paper, and that's what actually causes the lack of flexibility, right? That they want to do this major and this minor and something. You know, we have people that will do a primary major, a secondary major, and a minor, okay, in their 4 years, right? And they do this by taking 6 courses a semester, sometimes 7, which is, they just need to not do that. And by the way, you can help with that, right? How you respond to the idea that, you know, I was thinking about minoring in this, and you can say to them, you sure you really want to do that? Maybe you just take a course or two in that, and then also take a course or two in, you know, Middle Earth Chinese pottery. I don't know, because that's what, one of the reasons your kids are here at WashU is because of all the stuff that's not in engineering, right? And some of that is just the people they associate with, and they'll get that for free, if you will. But it's also the opportunity to take, you know, go take an American Studies course with Gerald Early, right? I mean, the guy to whom consults, Ken Burns reaches out to him when Ken Burns does a piece on either jazz or baseball, because Gerald's actually an expert on both of them, which is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, we do have an individually designed major. We have very few students who do it, one every few years, and they have to work with a faculty member to create what that might look like. It can be a challenge to have a good creation and have it work out for the student really well. Companies don't know what that means a lot of times. So if it's computer science, I think they have a lot of flexibility in that program that they could still pursue a lot of other interests. But we'd be happy to talk to them about it. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
I have a lot of people who work in this college who know the answer to this better than I do, and they're sitting here.
I would go for the BSMS personally, because adding an additional second major or minor, no one's going to really care except you, but if you actually have a master's degree, that's going to mean something when you graduate. That's going to offer more credentialing power. They don't have to be in the same. So you could do an undergrad degree in biomedical engineering, get a minor in computer science, and then jump into the master's of computer science, BSMS. So they're doing the CS plus math degree. It's not like chemical engineering.
All of it is above my pay grade.
You have to declare. And it's on WebStack, which is the tool the students use. It's a process. They declare, and then it goes to the department for their review, and then it happens.
Interactive, they've already taken a whole bunch of courses.
Yeah.
It's not like, so the short answer to your question is no, they don't have to apply. Okay, they just have to take the courses. They do have to pass the courses. But once you've satisfied the requirements, it's important to know that at the moment, and I'm just going to say at the moment because nothing lasts forever. Some of you may have folks who are know folks who are, for example, at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. There, when you apply to get in, you have to indicate whether you want to apply to computer science. If you do, you do. If you don't, once you're there, you cannot transfer in, except with rare exceptions because they've got a crowd control problem. We have a crowd control problem also, but at the moment it's Rox and Bill's job to figure it out. But so no, they don't have to do that. The one thing, and this is a computer science element only. How many of you have heard complaints from your kids that they cannot get into the computer science classes they want? And if you don't all raise your hand, you're lying. We manage that very carefully. Bill and Rock, basically we have a whole bunch of courses that when you sign up for them, everyone's put on the wait list. And then they let people in depending upon what year you are, what major you're in order to just make sure that everybody can get the courses by the time they finish. So that might be the only time when knowing that someone is a minor would be important, right? So they just have to declare it so that when Bill's trying to figure out who do we let into this machine learning class that 2,000 people want to take, that they say, oh, this guy's a minor and he's finishing this year, and this is his 5th class, and so we have to be able to let him in. That would be the only, I think that would be the only reason we would need you to declare up front. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there are minor advisors also, so to speak with.
Declaring early because it's then baked into the shop.
Good idea, thanks. You have it for life. There's no way you can get out of it. Okay, we see students adding and dropping credentials all the time, all the way up to graduation.
For 95% of the programs, it is, as long as you pass the requirements for Washington University and for the program or university abroad, you're accepted.
Is it the degree audit? Is that yeah, very reliable, very reliable. And we have the most reliable degree audit on campus, and a lot of it's because of the faculty in the room here. They really keep up with it and let us know if there's something wrong, and when we fix it if there is something wrong.
I can add to that. So if your son or daughter is having issues with the audit, they check and something doesn't look right to their eye, they can talk to their faculty advisor or their four-year advisor and ask them to take a look at it. Faculty advisors are very familiar with what the issues might be, our issues in getting those right.
Every time they register or make a registration change, they should check it to make sure their courses are counting the way they think they should. And we send them these, as Melanie said, constant reminders to do that. 10% might do that. And there's an extra charge for that here. It's all rolled in.
As a driver once said to us as my wife and I were going to one of these all-inclusive resorts, remember, nothing's free. You've just already paid for it. I do want to say we got great advisors. We have faculty advisors. We have four-year advisors, et cetera. At the end of the day, it is the student's responsibility to make sure that they've satisfied the requirements. The best possible way to make sure is first step is who achieves, second step is the advisor. But if and we try to ensure that because the faculty have to sign off on the registrations, et cetera. But at the end of the day, the obligation is on the student to make sure they get enough advising input to make sure they've checked all those boxes. Occasionally, we get panic situations January of their senior year when all of a sudden they realize, oh, this course that I was counting on is not offered this semester, and they didn't bother to figure that out till like now. And so we have to come up with some way of enrolling them in something else that'll satisfy. It's pretty rare, but it is actually the student's responsibility to sort of engage with the advising and the automated systems to verify that.
I think the general statement I'll make is push them towards what they want to do, but then I'll leave it open to whoever else would like to talk about that. Kelly, anything you'd like to add?
I think we try to provide as many industry opportunities that we can in terms for students to connect with companies and alumni. We just want students to have as many opportunities as possible, and I think the departments and the faculty are also talking to students about the opportunities that exist in academia and research. So I think there's hopefully opportunities coming at them from all angles, and that's the student's choice to make.
Adding to that, it's just such a personalized decision. For example, you mentioned mechanical, but let's say environmental engineering, I would be really emphasizing that push towards the math. That is the corner realm in the business. On the other hand, in another major like chemical engineering, you rarely be pushing that for you. I think it's really discipline specific, and it's really even within that discipline, just what is their shorter and longer term goals? I don't think there's an easy one.
And did you say you were 87? Yeah. Okay, so my understanding is, so you were here when Dean McKelvey was Dean. Huh? Oh, okay, there you go. Well, no, Jim Jr. was a classmate. His father was the dean, right. Yeah, it's interesting when you say the important one, it's like never know who you're talking about. Under Jim McKelvey Sr., there was a shift at this at engineering of going from really a mostly local, people, almost everyone who was in the engineering school came from around here. They used to call it a streetcar, right? It was mostly a vocationally oriented engineering degree. So if you got a degree in the 60s we'll start with 60s, and early 70s, you were most likely going to stay in the area and work in an engineering job locally, et cetera. Under Jim McKelvey, there was this huge shift, so we're now a first-class research engineering school as well. And I might even say that we maybe overshot the mark a little bit in terms of our depth of connection to industry. And so there was, maybe, I don't want to say an overemphasis, but there was this notion of graduate school, professional school, PhD, et cetera, whatever. One of the things that Kelly has really done, and actually I'll call out Lori Setton, who's now here, chair of biomedical engineering. It used to be that if you were majoring in BME, they were assuming you were going to do one of two things, get a PhD in BME or go to med school. Now there's an understanding there's a huge number of engineering opportunities in industry. So I think one of the things we've tried to do is reinforce the connection to industry, but it's industry writ large, not industry just within 50 miles. So I think there's now a bigger portfolio for the students to choose from than in 1987.
talking to me. So I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we're doing to connect with industry, and that was kind of why my role was created, not just to strengthen the relationship that we have with companies for recruiting our students for interns and co-ops, but also getting more exposure within the classroom, trying to get more speakers talking about industry topics, connecting faculty with research, building in more industry projects into capstone courses. And so we're being a lot more intentional with that. Our office sends out a weekly email to students every single week with opportunities at companies all across the country, articles about industry like new technologies and preparing for, careers. We have really strong mentoring programs that exist at a school-wide level through our Women in Engineering program, through some industry-specific ones, like we have a Boeing mentoring program, we have a MasterCard mentoring program, we have a Deloitte mentoring program. So we're really trying to push out things where students are connecting with industry in a lot of different levels, and everything from the students all the way up to the faculty.
But it's a fine line, and I'm familiar with the schools you're talking about in terms of the amount of practical interaction, et cetera. Often industry will come to us and say, gee, we need you to spend more time teaching them soft skills, teamwork building, a bunch of things like that. We only get them for 4 years. Industry gets them for life. So there are things that we can do at a university that you just can't do at a company. And so we need to provide them with opportunity. But particularly at a place like WashU, we're going to produce students who when they walk in the door of the company they're working at, they're going to know more than an awful lot of the other students walking in that door. They may have had less practical experience, but they're actually going to know a lot, and they're going to know how to learn. So I don't want to diminish the importance of giving them choices to get exposure. And, it used to be that parents would ask, is my kid going to get a job? Nobody asks that anymore. They ask, when is my kid going to get an internship? And that's one of the reasons there's a big focus on the internship. Now, there are good internships and bad internships. Good internships are where the intern comes away having learned something about, this is kind of like what I'd like to do, or by the way, this is kind of not what I would like to do. To get companies to run good internships is actually non-trivial. So sometimes a lot of the sort of hands-on stuff, the student comes away and they've done this project, et cetera, but they're no farther along to understanding who they are and what they want to do. And so we work pretty hard with companies to make sure the internship experience is not just sort of employee for a month, right? It's actually understanding like the breadth of the company, right? I don't want you sitting in one little area, right? I want you to come to understand more about the whole different kinds of things you might do in this company. That's a powerful internship experience. So that's what we've been working on.
I also want to add one other thing, is that there's a lot of resources for students to travel to industry conferences. We have about 50 to 60 students in Houston right now with the Society of Women Engineers Conference. We have students that we send to the NSBE Conference, the Grace Hopper, the Women in Computer Science Conference. So we're trying to make sure that they're connecting with industry in a lot of different ways. And to Dean Bobbick's point, I think every single company tells us, they want students that are well-rounded. They want them to be able to communicate, work in teams, have problem-solving skills. And so I think you'll also see us push the students a lot towards student organizations, and probably why we're discouraging maybe minors a little bit, so students gain some of those transferable skills in areas outside of class. I think that varies. We do have students that get internships after their first year. We do have them that get it off their sophomore years. Companies a lot of times want them after their junior year when they have, a lot of their engineering core classes. But it really depends on the companies. And so all of that's possible. Some students will do research their first summer, or take classes, or take a part-time job where they are still developing those transferable skills. So there's plenty of opportunity, I think, to do all of that.
I think we have time for one more question before our reception starts upstairs, and we'll all be up there to help answer your questions individually. So any final questions out there?
What was the biggest surprise so far about WashU?
Last year was the food.
Okay.
This year, okay.
There's some times when I'm like thrilled that there are some problems on campus that are not my problem. Dining and parking. All right. Yeah. So welcome, and stay extra. You can all come to my house. It really, like I said, I think the university is really sort of awakened and is back up and, embracing the students the way, and the students are embracing us the way, frankly, we had always taken for granted. And now, frankly, we understand that, wow, this is actually a pretty magical and important thing. All right, well, thank you all for coming, and join us upstairs.